Tonight, you are going home through the snow. The road begins at a small market town in northern China in the final decades of the Northern Song Dynasty. It will carry you beyond the last stalls and winter fields, around the foot of a low mountain, and at last to a quiet house at the edge of a village. There is no great quest waiting for you there. No mystery has to be solved before morning. You have only a few ordinary things to do: put away your purchases, light the fire, make supper, mend what needs mending, and lie down while snow settles over the roof. You do not need to remember every detail of the journey. If your attention wanders from the road, let it wander. The road knows where it is going. And if sleep reaches the house before you do, that is all right too. It is late afternoon when you fold the last hide and lay it across your small bundle. The snow began only a short while ago. At first, it came as a few pale flakes drifting beneath the eaves. They settled on straw awnings, on shoulders, and on the dark boards of the market stalls, then disappeared almost at once. Now the flakes are coming more thickly. They move sideways through the fading light and cling to the road where many feet have pressed the earth firm. The market is closing. All around you, the busy sounds of the day are being put away with the merchandise. A grain seller pulls cloth across the mouths of his sacks. A potter nests his unsold bowls together, placing twists of straw between them. Someone lifts a plank from two wooden stands. Someone else rolls an old mat beneath an awning and shakes loose a powdering of snow. A few traders continue to call out, but without much conviction. Their voices carry only a little way before the weather softens them. Everyone knows that the day's business is almost done. Your own stall was never much of a stall. You brought only a few carefully cleaned and dried hides, along with the old cloth and cord used to bind them. Beside the larger displays of grain, pottery, cloth, and tools, your modest display looked quiet and rather plain. That suits you. You are a hunter, though not the sort who appears in ballads. No one is likely to compose a song about checking old tracks, repairing straps, or waiting in cold brush while nothing happens. Most of your days are made of practical things. You tend to your house, work where the season allows, and watch the mountain paths for signs that are easy to miss. Today was simply a market day. You came down from the village to sell what you had prepared since the beginning of winter. In return, you would carry home the things that cannot be gathered from a hillside: salt, lamp oil, a little grain, and a few useful tools. The dealer who bought the hides has already gone. He examined them without hurry, running the back of his hand over each surface and turning the edges to see how they had been cleaned. Neither of you wasted many words. Work of this kind speaks mostly through the hands. A well-prepared hide does not become better because someone praises it, and a poor one does not improve because its owner tells a long story. The payment is now divided between two places. You keep a small part where it can be reached easily. You still have purchases to make. The rest is wrapped in a scrap of cloth and tucked safely beneath the front of your robe. It is not a large sum. Even so, its small weight against your chest is reassuring. The journey to market has been worthwhile. By the time you leave, that payment will have changed into food, light, and tools. None of these things will look impressive when arranged on a table. That is no great loss. impressive things have never been especially good at filling a bowl or mending a torn sleeve, you tighten the cord around your bundle and lift it once to test the knot. There is more room in it now. Before long, that empty space will hold millet, beans, salt, and a small jar of oil. The load will be heavy again on the road home, but every part of its weight will have a purpose. Snow gathers along the edge of the stall. One flake settles beside another, then another, until a thin white line remains where earlier snow would have melted. A man passing with a handcart looks up at the sky and calls for his companion to hurry. Nearby, a child is lifted onto a cart and tucked deep inside an adult's outer robe. You should be going as well. Before leaving the market town, however, you need to walk along the street and buy what you came for. You pull your old outer robe more closely across your chest. It has served you through many winters. The shoulder has been patched. The cuffs have been patched. One side has been patched so often that the original cloth and the repairs have become equal partners. It has never been handsome, but handsomeness is a poor kind of insulation. The robe is familiar, heavy, and dependable. In weather like this, those qualities matter more. You loop the spare cord around your wrist, check the bundle once more, and step away from the little patch of ground where you spent the day. Behind you, the last of the market is disappearing. The snow is still shallow, but it is deep enough to receive the first clear print of your shoe. The market town is small. To reach the grain stalls, you need only cross a short stretch of road between sellers who are closing for the night. In clear weather, it would take very little time. In the snow, no one moves quite as quickly. You go first to buy grain. The seller has already covered half his sacks. When he sees you coming, he pulls the cloth back from two of them. Inside are the familiar grains of the north. They look dull in the evening light, but when the wooden measure dips and rises, they make a dry, satisfying sound. You do not buy much. There is still a little older grain at home, and one person can carry only so much. A hill does not become shorter merely because the person climbing it has purchased beans. You choose enough millet to last for a while, and add a smaller amount of beans. The seller measures both, ties them into separate bags, and passes them across. You weigh each bag in your hand before placing it against the side of the bundle that will rest on your back. These grains will not become a feast. They will become morning porridge, a thicker evening meal, or a pot of millet cooked with beans and dried greens. Food in your house is not expected to offer a new surprise every day. It is more like the roof, the door bar, or the path home. Its greatest virtue is that it is there when needed. Next, you buy salt. You need only a little. The seller wraps it carefully and folds another layer around the first so that melting snow cannot reach it. You place the packet above the grain where nothing heavy will crush it. Then comes the lamp oil. The jar is small and tightly sealed. You raise it toward the remaining light and turn it in your hand, checking for cracks. At home, the oil lamp is lit only when there is work that truly requires it. A little sewing after dark or a few lines read from an old page is enough. There is no reason to fill the entire room with light. The room has seen itself before. You wrap the jar separately and fit it into one side of the bundle. Your last stop is a seller of needles and small tools. Most of his things are already packed. Only a few remain on the board: needles, awls, scissors, and other small pieces of iron that catch what little light is left beneath the awning. Your old needle is bent. The point has grown dull, and the last time you tried to mend the thick cloth of your robe, it stopped halfway through as if reconsidering its profession. You persuaded it onward, but only just. It is time to let it rest. You choose one new needle. Then you pick up a small awl. Its wooden handle is plain, but the iron point is straight and sound. It will make future work on leather straps, shoe edges, and heavy bags much easier. The seller folds the needle into a small piece of material and warns you not to push it carelessly into a sleeve. You nod. This is advice you did not need, though advice is sometimes included in the price whether a person asks for it or not. You put the needle and awl in a safe place. Now the day's business is truly finished. Your bundle has its weight again. Millet and beans lie at the bottom. The salt rests above them. The oil jar is protected at one side, and the needle and awl are tucked where they will not be damaged. None of your purchases is grand. Every one of them will be useful. From the other end of the market comes the hollow sound of wooden boards being brought together. The sky has darkened another shade. Whenever snow passes through the light of a nearby stall, each flake shines briefly before vanishing into the road. Somewhere close by, broth is simmering. The smell reaches you, warm and savory, but you do not stop. You have food at home, and the road will take time. You lift the bundle onto your back and settle its weight into the familiar place between your shoulders. The strap pulls a little too close to your neck. You adjust it, test your footing, and turn toward the edge of town. No one is urging you onward. Winter twilight does not need to. It quietly removes color from the far end of the street, one shade at a time, until leaving becomes the only sensible choice. You step onto the road home. Once you have passed the last few shops, the sounds of the market quickly fade behind you. For a while you can still hear a cartwheel pressing over the road and a distant voice calling to someone out of sight. A little farther on, both sounds become indistinct. Then there is only the soft scrape of your steps through new snow and the faint movement of small things inside your bundle. You know this road well. In the morning, the ground was clear. Brown winter grass showed along the edges, and several dark stones marked the places where water sometimes softened the earth. Now the snow is slowly making every surface the same pale color. It is not deep enough to trouble you yet. The road follows a gentle slope beyond the town, passes winter fields, and bends around the foot of the mountain. If you walk steadily and do not hurry, there is little danger of losing the way. So you walk steadily. Your shoes press through the white surface to the firmer ground below. Each step makes a small sound, followed by a smaller silence. The next step repeats it. Sound, silence, sound, silence. The rhythm soon becomes as natural as breathing. The bundle is heavier than it was when you left the market stall. The grain pulls downward while the strap presses across your shoulder. At first, your attention returns to the weight again and again. After a while, your body accepts it and stops making a complaint of every step. The road opens beside a stretch of empty fields. In warmer months, these plots would hold color, movement, and people calling across the rows. Now the stalks have been cut, the soil has hardened, and the low ridges are disappearing beneath a thin covering of snow. You pass without stopping. The year has already taken what it will take from these fields. For tonight, they are allowed to rest. Snow catches in the dry grass at the roadside. It settles on seed heads and bends them slightly toward the ground. A narrow ditch follows the road for some distance. Its shallow water is dark where it still moves and pale where a skin of ice has formed along the edges. You place each foot carefully. The sky above the mountain is now a deep grey. No single cloud can be seen. Earth and sky seem to have moved closer together with the falling snow between them. You do not mind the quiet. You have lived alone long enough to understand its different forms. There is the quiet of early morning when the day is waiting. There is the quiet of the mountain where small sounds carry far. And there is the quiet of snow which seems to take every distant noise and wrap it in cloth. This is the third kind. The cold touches the exposed skin of your face. A few flakes cling to your brow, melt, and run briefly before the wind dries them. Your breath appears in front of you, then drifts over one shoulder. You draw the robe more tightly around your body. The cloth is old, but dense. Beneath it, other layers hold what warmth they can. They do not make you comfortable in the way a summer afternoon is comfortable. Winter offers more modest bargains. You give it steady movement, dry clothing, and good sense. In return, it allows you to keep most of your warmth. Most of it is enough. The path rises slightly as it approaches the foot of the mountain. Here the wind changes. It no longer crosses the open fields directly, but moves between low trees and bare shrubs. Snow has begun to gather on the branches. When a gust passes through, some of it loosens and falls in small, soundless showers. You pause beneath one tree to adjust the bundle. The strap has shifted again. You bend forward, lift the weight with one hand, and pull the strap into a better position with the other. For a few moments, your shoulder is free. Then the burden settles back, no lighter than before, but more evenly placed. You stand still and listen. Behind you, the town is no longer visible. Ahead, the road turns beyond the trees. Nothing moves nearby. There is no reason to be afraid. This is familiar land. You know where the slope falls away, where the road narrows, and where rain has exposed a pale stone beside the track. Snow alters the appearance of the world, but it does not move the mountain. You begin walking again. At the bend, you pass a small stand of trees whose trunks lean in the same direction from years of weather. Their branches make a dark pattern against the snow. In another season, you might stop to examine marks along the ground or look for movement deeper among them. Tonight, the light is leaving, and the sensible destination is a closed door and a waiting stove. The mountain can keep its secrets until morning. Your thoughts turn to the contents of the bundle. The millet is the heaviest part. You can feel it shift in a single mass when you step down from a stone. The beans make a quieter movement beside it. The salt weighs almost nothing by comparison, though a kitchen notices its absence more quickly than its weight would suggest. The little jar of lamp oil is wrapped well. You picture the place where it will be stored. You picture the new needle laid safely beside the old one, and the awl placed with the few tools you use for leather. Without opening the bundle, you arrange every object in your mind. This makes the load seem less like a burden and more like a house not yet unpacked. Snow falls more heavily. Your footprints remain distinct for several steps behind you, then soften at the edges. Farther back, the road is already smoothing itself over. It is as if the evening is politely removing the evidence of your journey once you no longer need it. The slope begins to descend. You know this part by the way your legs change their effort. The village lies beyond the next rise, still hidden. Before you see a roof, you notice the faint smell of wood smoke. It is very slight. At first, you wonder whether it has come from your imagination. Then the wind moves again and the scent returns. Dry wood, a little damp straw, the ordinary smoke of evening fires. People are cooking. Doors are being closed. Wet shoes are being left near thresholds. Hands are being held over small flames. Across the village, many separate days are ending at nearly the same time. You continue downhill. The thought of your own house does not make your pace hurried, but it makes the remaining distance easier to measure. At the bottom of the slope, the road passes a shallow stream. Flat stones form the crossing. Snow has gathered along their upper edges, while the center of each stone remains dark from passing feet. You test the first one before placing your full weight upon it. It holds. The next stone holds as well. Water moves quietly beneath the thin ice at the banks. You can hear it for only a moment. Then you are on the other side, climbing the last gradual rise. The first roof appears through the snow. It is only a dark line at first. Then another roof comes into view, and another. The houses are low and still. Smoke rises from several of them, though the falling snow quickly makes it difficult to see where smoke ends and weather begins. No bright lamps mark the road. There are only narrow suggestions of light at a few doors and openings, dim enough to belong to the night rather than challenge it. You have reached the village. The village path is quieter than the road. Snow lies across places where feet passed earlier in the day. A few newer tracks lead from one house to another, then disappear behind walls or gates. Somewhere nearby, a vessel is set down on wood. From another house comes the brief murmur of voices, followed by silence. You pass without disturbing anyone. Your house stands a little apart, near the edge of the village where the ground begins to rise again. It is neither the largest nor the smallest. Its roof is sound enough. Its walls have been repaired where repairs were needed. The door closes properly. In winter, this is high praise for a house. There is no light waiting outside. Snow has collected beneath the eaves and along the threshold. You lower the bundle in the sheltered place beside the door, brush snow from your sleeves, and work the familiar outer fastening open. The metal gives a small, clear sound. You lift the bundle again and push the door inward. Cold darkness meets you. A house left alone through a winter day has no special talent for welcome. It offers shelter first and warmth only after some negotiation. You step inside and close the door behind you. The sound of the wind immediately changes. Outside, it moved freely around your face and clothing. Inside, it is reduced to a low pressure against the walls and a faint movement beneath the door. You set the bundle down. For a moment, you remain still and let your eyes adjust. You can make out the familiar shapes: the stove, the low table, the storage jars, the place where you keep tools, and the sleeping space against the wall. Nothing has moved while you were away. This is one of the quiet comforts of living alone. It is also one of the less convenient facts. No one has lit the fire. No one has warmed water. No one has prepared supper or hung wet clothing to dry. Still, no one is asking you to hurry. You can put the evening in order at your own pace. First, you lower the wooden bar across the inside of the door. Then you kneel beside the bundle and open it. The millet and beans go to the dry storage place. You inspect the packet of salt. Its wrapping is still firm. The oil jar has survived the road without leaking. You place it beside the lamp. The new needle and awl go with your other small tools. For a moment, the new iron point catches the last faint light in the room. Then it disappears among familiar objects. The empty bundle is folded. The cord is wound and set aside. Each object returns to a place where your hand will know how to find it, even in darkness. Only then do you turn to the lamp. You add only a little oil and prepare the tinder. The first flame is no larger than the end of your finger. You cup one hand around it and wait. When it steadies, the lamp wick takes the light. A small circle appears around you. It does not illuminate the entire room. It does not need to. The lamp shows the stove, your hands, and the next thing that must be done. You arrange dry grass and thin pieces of wood beneath the cooking stove. The tinder catches slowly. A thread of smoke rises, and the smallest flame leans away from your breath. You feed it patiently. Fire has always had its own opinion about haste. Add a heavy piece of wood too soon and it will retreat, leaving you to begin again. So you give it the thin pieces first, then slightly thicker ones, waiting until each begins to burn before adding the next. The flame becomes steady. The wood starts to make a soft, irregular crackle. The room does not grow warm at once. Cold remains in the floor, the walls, your damp robe, and the bundle you carried in from the snow. A real winter night is not defeated by one small flame. It simply begins, little by little, to give up its hold. You sit close enough to warm your hands. At first, the heat makes your fingers ache. Then feeling returns to each joint. You turn your palms toward the fire, then the backs of your hands. For a short while, you do nothing else. You let the flame settle. You let your breathing settle. You let the cold road leave your body one small part at a time. After a while, you stand. It is time to make supper. The hunger from a day away from home is not sharp. It is a quiet, hollow place somewhere beneath your ribs, waiting to be filled with something warm. You pour water into the pot. It strikes the bottom with a clear sound. You set the pot over the heat and take a small portion from the older grain already stored in the house. The new supplies can remain closed for now. Using the old grain first is one of the plain rules by which a solitary household keeps itself in order. You measure millet into a bowl and add a few beans. In daylight, neither looks remarkable. In the warm circle of the lamp, with the fire taking hold beneath the pot, they begin to feel like the center of the evening. You pick away a little chaff and rinse the grain. The first water clouds. The second is clearer. You drain it where you usually do and tip the clean grain into the pot. The fire is ready for a thicker piece of wood. You place one carefully and adjust it until the flame can move beneath. At first, the water is silent. Then comes a faint murmur from the base of the pot. The sound of cold water beginning to understand what is expected of it. You take a small handful of dried greens. Their leaves have curled and darkened since summer. They no longer carry the color of the garden, but winter gives value to anything that has been saved well. You soften them in water, cut them into smaller pieces, and add them to the pot. Tonight's meal will be simple. Millet porridge with beans and dried greens, a wheat flatbread kept from an earlier day, a little salt. That is enough. No guest has arrived to inspect the meal, and the person who must be satisfied is already hungry. You open the packet of salt and take only a pinch. The rest is wrapped again with care. Salt cannot warm a room, and it cannot turn plain porridge into a banquet. It can, however, make grain and greens taste more fully like themselves. During a long winter, such small improvements deserve respect. The water begins to simmer. At first, a few bubbles collect around the edge. Soon the whole surface moves gently. You draw the spoon along the bottom so that the millet does not cling. Warm vapor rises over your hands and fades into the cold that still lingers in the room. A smell begins to form. It is not the rich broth you noticed near the market. It would not call a passerby from the road. It is only the soft scent of cooking grain mixed with wood smoke, damp cloth, and the old timber of the house. It is the smell of supper in your own room. You know what the porridge will taste like. There is comfort in not being surprised. As the contents of the pot thicken, you reduce the fire. The flatbread is placed near the pot, where the heat and vapor can soften it slowly. You do not put it directly into the flame. There is little pleasure in a meal that is burnt on one side and still cold on the other. While you wait, you remove your outer robe. The snow on its surface has melted into dampness. You shake it open and hang it near the stove, though not too near. A spark could damage the old cloth, and too much smoke would remain in it for days. You choose a place that receives warmth without flame. The weight lifts from your shoulders. Everything brought from the market is now distributed through the house. Grain has its place, salt has its place, oil and tools have their places. Even the wet robe hangs where it should. You are the only thing in the room that no longer needs to be carried anywhere. The pot gives a quieter sound as the porridge thickens. You stir again and test a little. The beans have softened. The greens have opened in the water. You move the pot away from the strongest heat and take down your bowl. There is no second bowl to set out. You have lived alone for some time. That does not mean supper must be careless. The bowl should still be steady. The food should still be cooked. The door should still be barred. You care for the meal not because anyone is watching, but because the person who wakes here tomorrow will also be you. You ladle the hot porridge into the bowl. White steam rises from the rim and briefly passes across the lamp's small light. You set the warmed flatbread beside you and sit down. The first spoonful is hot. You let it cool before swallowing. After the long road, the bowl warms your hands more directly than the stove. Heat travels into your palms and loosens the last stiffness in your fingers. You eat slowly, a spoonful of millet and beans, a small bite of the softening flatbread, a pause. Outside, snow continues to fall. The wind brushes the corner of the house and moves on. Inside, the only sounds are the fire and the faint touch of the spoon against the bowl. You think briefly of the market town. By now, every stall will be closed. The grain seller may be eating beneath his own roof. The tool seller may be counting what remains in his box. People who passed you during the day are sitting in separate pools of lamplight, eating their own suppers. You do not know where most of them live. You do not need to know. It is enough to imagine that at the end of many roads beneath this same snow, people are setting down their burdens, closing doors and holding warm bowls between cold hands. The night feels less empty when you remember this. You continue eating until only a little remains. There is enough in the pot for morning. You move it to a cooler place and cover it. When you wake, you will not need to begin breakfast from nothing. Supper is finished. The hollow place in your body has been filled quietly and warmly. You put down the bowl, but do not rise at once. The fire breathes in the stove. It brightens. It dims. When it brightens, you see the damp robe hanging nearby. When it dims, the shadows move closer again. You sit and allow the meal to become warmth. Only when you have rested long enough do you pick up the bowl. The tasks after supper are small. You rinse the bowl with a little water. You wipe the spoon and return it to its place. You pick up several grains that have fallen near the stove and make sure the lid sits firmly on the pot. None of these things requires much strength. None will do itself simply because the weather is cold. When the bowl is clean, you leave it upside down to dry and turn to the robe. The outer surface is no longer wet. One cuff is still damp, so you change the way it hangs and let the other side face the warmth. Under the lamplight, its patches show in several shades. You no longer remember when the oldest one was sewn. The newest lies at the right cuff. Tonight, there is another tear to mend near the lower edge, where a thorn caught the cloth several days ago. The opening is small. Left alone, it will grow with every long step. Your old needle struggled against the heavy cloth, which is why you bought a new one today. You unwrap it now. The needle reflects only a point of light. You find the thread you have saved and bring the end toward the eye. The first attempt misses. You move the lamp a little closer, steady your hand, and succeed on the second. There is no need to make the flame brighter. The light you have is enough. You align the two sides of the tear and begin from within. The new needle passes through the cloth cleanly. Your fingers do not need to push and twist as they did before. For such a small object, it offers an almost unreasonable amount of satisfaction. One stitch enters, one stitch returns. The thread draws the cloth together. Outside, a little weight of snow slips from the eaves and lands with a soft collapse. You pause to listen, then continue. The stitches do not need to be beautiful. They need only be close enough and strong enough. This robe has long since stopped asking for beauty. It asks to remain a robe. You finish the seam and run a thumb along it. It will hold. The thread is cut, the needle wrapped, and both are returned to the place you prepared earlier. The bent old needle remains nearby. You do not throw it away. A tool that is no longer good for thick cloth may still serve some smaller purpose. There is one more repair to make. The strap on your carrying bundle has begun to loosen where the material folds around itself. You bring it into the light and examine the weak place. The journey through the snow has pulled it tight, and several holes have stretched. This is work for the new awl. You press the iron point through the thick material, turning it slowly until it passes. The wooden handle sits comfortably in your palm. You make a second hole, then guide a cord through and draw the loose layers together. The knot resists. You pull once, then again. At last, it tightens into place, perhaps because it has accepted the argument, and perhaps because it has simply run out of cord. You test the strap with both hands. It is stronger now. Tomorrow, it will hang from its peg. On the next market day, or the next journey into the hills, you will use it without giving tonight's repair much thought. This is what successful mending usually becomes. a problem you are allowed to forget. You return the awl to the other tools. The room has grown warmer, though not warm enough to make you careless. The robe is drying. The stove holds a steady red glow under the remaining wood. Your hands, busy with needle and cord, have stayed loose. You tidy the small pieces of thread. You coil what remains of the cord. Then you sit back. The necessary work of the evening is done. Nothing dramatic has changed. The roof is the same roof. The room is the same room. But the bowl is clean, tomorrow's food is covered, the robe will not tear farther, and the strap is sound. A life kept in order is often made of changes this small. The fire is lower now. You add no more wood. There is enough light in the oil lamp for one final quiet thing. From a dry place you take several old sheets of paper. The edges have softened with handling. The writing is faded in parts, but still clear enough where you need it to be. You learned a small number of characters when you were younger. Not enough for official documents or difficult books. Not enough to call yourself a scholar. Only enough to recognize familiar words, follow a simple line, and keep from losing everything you once learned. Tonight, that is all you want. You bring the pages near the lamp. The flame is too weak to illuminate the whole room, but it lights a narrow space in front of you. The characters sit within it, dark against the worn paper. Some are about seasons. Some name the earth, trees, birds, animals, and the ordinary work of people. You read one line, then you pause. You read the next. There is no new story to pursue. No difficult lesson must be mastered before bed. You allow the familiar characters to pass through your attention as familiar landmarks passed beside the road. The lamp flickers. Shadows move across the paper and settle again. You reach a line you have read many times. Before your eyes arrive at the final character, your memory has already supplied it. Knowing what comes next does not lessen the pleasure. Tonight, predictability is a kindness. After a few more lines, you stop. The oil need not be spent further. Your eyes have begun to tire, and the shapes on the paper are becoming softer at their edges. You stack the sheets in their proper order and return them to the dry place. Tomorrow, or another evening, or another night of snow, they will still be there. The day has reached its true ending. You check the wooden bar across the door one final time. It is secure. The grain, salt, oil, needle, and awl are all put away. The open flame in the stove is nearly gone. A dim red glow remains beneath the ash. You do not add more wood. You prepare your sleeping place and unfold the old bedding. It is not soft in the way new bedding might be soft. It carries the familiar scent of the room, the house, and your own winter nights. You sit and remove the last damp outer layer. Your shoes are where you can reach them in the morning. The mended robe hangs safely near the fading warmth. Everything you will need after sunrise is in a place your hands remember. You lean toward the lamp. With one breath you put it out. The flame narrows to a tiny point, then it is gone. Darkness returns to the room, but it is not the same darkness that greeted you at the door. Then the house was cold. There was no fire, no supper, and no warmth in your hands. Now the darkness rests over heat hidden beneath the stove ash. It rests over food saved for morning and supplies brought safely home from the market. You lie down and draw the bedding to your shoulders. The wind has weakened. Snow is still falling. It settles on the roof. It settles before the door. It settles on the village path and the road that leads back toward the town. Farther away, it covers the prints you left while walking home. You no longer need those prints. You are here. The hides have been sold, the grain has been bought, the salt, the lamp oil, the needle and the awl no longer weigh upon your back. Tomorrow will have its own work. You may need to clear snow from the threshold. You may warm the porridge left in the pot. You may walk toward the edge of the hills and look for new signs along the ground. But none of that belongs to tonight. Tonight, the door is barred, the bowl is clean, the robe is mended, the fire is quiet. You do not need to walk any farther. You do not need to count anything. You do not need to search for anything. You need only listen to the snow. A little wind passes the corner of the house, then it moves away. The room remains still. Your breathing is slower now. Your shoulders settle more deeply into the bedding. The ache left by the road no longer asks for your attention. Snow covers the fields. Snow covers the roofs. Snow covers the road. And slowly, softly, it covers every small task that has already been completed. You have finished the journey from the market town. You have come through your own door. You have eaten. You have put the day away. The night asks nothing more of you. You may continue listening to the snow, or you may let the sound go. The story will remain here in this small house at the edge of the village, keeping watch beside the last warmth beneath the ash. And you may sleep